You recording? Excellent. Go ahead.
All right, 6:02 now is the time set for the the work study session of Planning and Zoning Commission. It is October 14th, 2025. Michael Faith, the chair. I call this meeting to order. First item is the agenda and the packet are available on the website. A video recording of this meeting can be seen here the next business day. And Pledge of Allegiance, please. Following. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to business. Item 3A, the citizen review, section 3, administration. Presenter Randy, this is for public discussion related to the proposed zoning code text amendment regarding section 3 for administrative procedures. Take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, good evening. Commissioner O'Connor is also on the phone with us via Zoom and listening in. It is lovely to see you all. I always appreciate our conversations. I wish they were about more fun topics. Wish you could see all the designs and the projects coming forward, but you have the burden of being the recommendation on law changes most of the time. Occasionally, we'll have a use permit. Very rarely, we'll have a rezoning. So most of our conversations regarding the text or the law of the land and changes that are needing to be required. I'm not going to present just yet as this is the citizen review. My presentation would follow in item 3B. So
correct. So what do we do? Call this follow the community? Is not even that. It's do we have any speakers? I guess. There we go. Go ahead. Name, address.
My name is Rachel Dudley. I live on 145 East Estero Lane. I am, full disclosure, I'm on the design review board, although I would like to say that I am here as a citizen today in that capacity, not representing, obviously, my interests on that board. So since we haven't heard Randy's presentation, some of my comments and concerns may be alleviated. But I think since I have this opportunity, I had some questions that I previously sent the city. I don't know if have they been shared, or should I was kind of thinking I would just read them out loud so that, because in short, I think it's a kind of a important, it seems maybe on its face like it's we just need to comply with HB 2447. It's pretty simple, but I personally feel that it seems to be an erosion a little bit of public's ability to participate and have meaningful impact and influence on our community. And so I just feel very protective of that, and I want to make sure that it's considered very thoroughly before something such as sweeping as the DRB's advisory only is put into the zoning code. So so in short, and I think that's because, just to summarize, when I read what I think are the proposed amendments, to me it seems like making the DRB advisory is not actually required under law. So the administrative approval of objective standards is, and I fully support that. But I think making the DRB advisory only and taking away voting rights is not required. So that's what I'm feeling protective over, and just want to make sure that we have a full-throated conversation around it. So some questions that I had that came up. So I had already said the administrative approval required by the statute, I think, is specific to objective standards only. So that makes me wonder then if we do move towards having the DRB as an advisory only role, does this imply that the city intends to remove all subjective standards from the zoning code, which is subjective standards meaning where we say harmonious with neighborhood character and whatever, and there still are I think that still persists, I think, in the proposed changes. Or does city staff intend to approve those aspects administratively as well? So would this now become a government? Are we almost sort of shifting our own? I mean, it's a little bit of a burden. It's our responsibility. The public has some influence, I think, over that aspect, and so I don't want to shift that onto the government, because I feel like we would be giving up a responsibility and an important influence. So then also, if the DRB does become advisory only, will staff be required to formally document and respond to our recommendations? Like, is it going to be something that they have to provide an agenda? You know, what does that look like? If both objective and subjective standards will persist in the code, how will the updated zoning code distinguish between objective criteria and subjective criteria? Like, will this categorization be made explicit? So, and then I've already kind of touched on this, but I would like us to consider, or you to consider, could eliminating the DRB's public decision-making role or reduce community input or weaken kind of our influence over neighborhood character? And if not, is the city proposing any measures to mitigate the erosion of community participation or influence in this way, if the board does become advisory only? So HB 2447, I think, does not mandate public notice for administrative approvals. So that's another question I had was, you know, how will the city ensure transparency? Like, for example, are the approvals going to be posted online? Will there be a public register that maintains? Because right now we do have like agendas that at least document like each package that is approved. And so there is some kind of record of the community conversation that has been had around why this was approved and why that was not approved. So I'm wondering if the DRB is advisory only, will there be some kind of record of that now that will be publicly accessible? Will there be an appeal process if residents or DRB members believe that an approval has misapplied standards? And then what safeguards will be in place along the same lines? What safeguards will be in place to ensure consistency and accountability in administrative approvals? And then I guess I was curious, so Randy may have something to say about this, but I was also wondering if the city has compared with other charter cities to see how they are preparing to implement HB 2447 as well. And then, so as I had said, my interpretation is that eliminating the voting rights of the DRB goes beyond the requirements of HB 2447. And so I guess I don't know if my interpretation is just wrong, or, you know, I would like to maybe hear some comments on that as well. I think it would be important to the discussion. So I think that was a lot. I had a lot of questions there. If anybody has any, do you want me to reiterate anything, or I know I talked fast, but otherwise I think that's the extent of my comments.
Anybody need any clarification from her? Randy, is now an appropriate time for you to reply to some of her questions, or do you want to do the presentation first?
Chair, these questions were received by staff a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, approximately. Exactly 32 minutes ago, I received the answer from our city manager, who also serves as the zoning administrator, and our attorney. So those answers to those questions have been placed in this PowerPoint as of 10 minutes ago. So as part of my presentation, the list of the questions presented tonight is included, as well as the responses from our legal review of the matter.
Are we going to do a presentation during the citizen review so she'll have another chance to ask questions?
Chair, I have 2 attorneys sitting in front of me, so I don't want to make that interpretation, quite frankly. However, it is my understanding that any conversation you wish to have during the citizen review happens during the citizen review with the citizens. B, the work study session comments and conversation is between us at the table.
Understood that. When is your presentation is the question.
During B.
Okay, all right. Well, then, if you don't have anything else, if there's nobody else, all right. So that'll conclude our business item A, and we'll move on to B, which is the zoning code text amendment related to section 3 administration. Discussion related to the approval procedures and staff responsibilities for site plans, design review, and other processes in section 3 of the zoning code. Our presenter is Randy again. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, Chair, members of the commission, I'm gonna talk a lot. We're gonna nerd out a bit. As you have questions, feel free to interrupt. This is a work study session. This is an open conversation. I'll look to my planning assistant to see if Commissioner O'Connor raises his hand or has questions. We'd be happy to answer any questions for our remote participants as well. I will give you as much information as I have. I'll give you a lot of background as far as why this came to be. And again, feel free to interrupt. So there's a couple of things going on. Every year, the state legislators have an opinion on how local cities should be doing business and how we may be implied as the red tape, as the thing that prevents affordability, as timely reviews of things. So there's been an ongoing belief that we are just too long to review. There's been a number of state law changes that require us to have shot clocks, essentially, as far as how quickly we look at things and respond to things. We have annual reporting that we have to do as far as how many houses were reviewed and permitted and platted every year. There are some things that we fortunately fall under the vicinity of a military airport. So there are some things like the ADU bill and some of the other bills that do not apply to us because of our adjacency. And we do not anticipate having apartments on every street corner because we're very close to the base, quite frankly, and we have maximums as far as our density permitted. The other thing that is a just baseline belief that has led to a lot of this conversation again is affordability can be solved if you just remove subjectivity from the jurisdiction. Us saying it must look like Litchfield Park hurts the home builder, and this isn't my opinion of the matter. I'm just letting you know what I've been working through a number of years, a number of jurisdictions. These are all home builder based changes that affect state law. When this home builder comes in, pick your favorite, and says, I'm building 500 homes. And they go to the planning department says, I'm not sure about this one. I like this one better. It's hard for the home builder to react and respond accordingly and then reprint 12 copies of everything and every, standard elevations, things like that. So that's the other part of this, not only authorizing administrative staff and review, but also removing subjectivity. And then it would also remove the additional layers of review and approval. I will tell you, again, as just a baseline comment, this is the first city I've worked in that had a DRB. I had never had a DRB prior. Everything had always been staff level review and approval of site plans, design reviews, pre-plats. So this was a change coming here. Now, housing availability and affordability is a statewide concern. So maybe jumping ahead to some of the answers and some of the questions upcoming, we are a charter city. This is a statewide matter, just like the chickens. So we do not have the luxury of using our charter to change anything that's being placed upon us. There's a belief that there's about 300,000 homes short of what there should be based on our growth in population. And all this could be solved if we, a local city, would just get out of the way. There's been a number of bills over the past few years that have really changed things, quite frankly, and the local controls being attacked, I think 3 or 4 years in a row now. So the original one, SB 1117, was passed, which basically removed size limitations on affordable housing. Previously, there was a cap of 200 units or less for some reason. HB 2536 was the one that had no support, that the governor did not sign, that League of Cities and Towns fought very hard, that basically said no more local zoning. Everyone just has 4 to the acre, 4 homes per acre, or if you're doing a multifamily, it's 8 to the acre. Essentially would wipe zoning code completely from any local level. It did pass, but this is the mindset that they've had as far as the Californication of some of the things going on, quite frankly. SB 1161 and 63 was a by right multifamily, meaning any commercial mixed use or residential zoning district essentially made it so that you had multifamily by right. No rezoning, no general plan amendments, you just get it. That also did not pass. It also would have a limit on lot sizes. I think it was around 4,000 square feet, which would be different than what's around here, quite frankly. Now, what did pass 2 years ago was SB 1165, and at the time it was a may condition. So at the time it said may authorize administrative staff to review and approve site plans or development plans. To that point, in my other jurisdictions, there wasn't any design review board. Before this passed in 2023, there was a number of cities that were starting to realize that there may need to be an additional look or feel to things that would benefit from a design board. After this passed, a number of cities that were thinking about a design review board abandoned those plans. And as of my last census, talking to my friends across the valley, I believe we are one of 3 jurisdictions that have a design review board in about the 20-25 cities that make up the valley. Questions so far? Okay. So what did pass in March, signed, sealed, delivered, is HB 2447. Authorize administrative personnel to review and approve site plans, development plans, land divisions, lot line adjustments, lot ties, preliminary plats, final plats, plat amendments without a public hearing. Authorize administrative personnel to review and approve design plans, design review plans, based on objective standards without a public hearing. And it goes into effect December 31st of this year. How that looks in state law is as follows: 9-500.49. Administrative review and approval, self-certification program, expedited reviews and definitions. Our focus is just on A tonight. Again, this is changing a may condition to a shall condition. And this is some of the strongest language I've seen out of the state in a long time. By stating, notwithstanding any other law, the legislative body of a city or town shall, by ordinance, do the following. Restated, that means local city, your city council must change their laws to do the following. That's a prescription. So how this became state law language, I'm not sure, but we are dealing with it, I guess you could say. Now, the thing I'm not talking about tonight is all the platting language. Platting doesn't fall under the zoning code in this jurisdiction. It is a separate chapter of city code. Platting is taking a big piece of land, splitting it up into individual homes for sale, the open space tracts, the right of way. We haven't had a plat in 10 years, I think, since Sunset Terrace. We don't have any plats coming our ways ever again, quite frankly. The only place left to put any sort of residential component is in Sun Health, and Sun Health cannot split their land and sell off their land because Liberty Utilities is not an assured water supplier. Since they are not assured water supplier, they cannot split their parcels. Questions on this?
Seeing none. So
Well,
go ahead, Bob.
so in reality, we have a design review board and a couple others do for a specific reason, to maintain the integrity of the plat that they're inside of. And where is this coming down from, other than it's a state law? Who generated this? Who pushed it? And what are the politics behind it? Because I know it's not just printed. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on behind the scenes, and who motivated it. And then I guess the last part is, what's our recourse?
So I don't have the sponsor with me by chance. I can certainly look that up, and there's co-sponsors to that bill as well.
Sure.
And there was in 2023 as well, when this was a May condition. It is a belief, and through excellent lobbying by the Home Builders Association of Arizona, that these matters of affordability and these matters of housing availability and stock of housing could be solved if we would get out of the way. Now, as far as your conversation about the integrity, I have that upcoming and can explain that in more detail. Now, this affects a number of sections, but I'm only talking about administration tonight. I'll come before you again for a comprehensive rewrite of section 39. Again, it is not our choice in the matter. It is not I don't know that we have recourse in the matter. To Board Member Derry's point, it is something that is in effect since March with an effective date on December 31st. So this deals with the zoning administrator and the design review boards, section 03 and 04 of chapter 3. So currently, these are just excerpts from our code current. The zoning administrator in this jurisdiction, that is the city manager, Matthew Williams, enforce the zoning code through the building permit process, subdivision review process, code enforcement. Related techniques as defined to parallel local planning, zoning, and land development procedures. City is the zoning administrator, is city manager. I act upon his behalf. On code enforcement, Rena acts upon his behalf. I even found out this week that our building official is the city manager, and our building official here on staff acts upon his behalf. The zoning administrator can also grant TUPs. You don't see TUPs as the commission, you'd see CUPs, conditional use permits. And currently, and I've highlighted the important part, shall have the authority to administratively approve minor design review applications. So to the residents' conversation earlier, as far as record keeping and that sort of thing, the applications deemed not minor go to the board takes minutes, board takes action currently. Minor applications like solar panels, I review solar panels, that doesn't need to go before the board. If there is an interior wall being changed that is not seen by right of way or the golf course or any tracks, I review those and approve those. On the design review board, design review will enhance the city's distinctive character and attractiveness as a resort center and enrich lives of all the residents of Litchfield Park by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, compatible development and furtherance of public health, safety, and general welfare, including the intentions of harmonizing visually with neighboring development, safe and aesthetically pleasing, convenient for users of the property, prevent conflicts, promote privacy, and maintain property values. I'm going to answer the question fully in the upcoming slides, but all of this is illegal. Just to get it out there and get it out of the way. Not a single part of this is objective. This is all subjective. And per conversations with our zoning administrator, city manager, and with our attorney, not one part of this can remain as stated. Questions on that?
Any questions? Go ahead.
You go. Currently, design review approval is required prior to issuance of building or sign permits for any new commercial residential construction, walls, fences, screening devices, signs, commercial subdivision, common area landscaping, solar energy collecting panel installation. It has been staff's decision and supported through legal review that although it's stated solar energy collection panel installations need to come to the board, along with Chair Charnetsky of DRB, we have been reviewing those administratively. Board's action shall be based solely on the design guidelines, section 39, as well as other cross references in section 30, 31.22, 35, and 36. So what do we need to do? The zoning administrator shall review and approve site plans, design reviews, etc. In the proposed text, which is included with your package tonight, it is the same text that's being introduced to City Council tomorrow. Normally, we don't have these on back-to-back days, but that's the way the calendar worked out this month, is what is being discussed. However, that language is not finalized. That language is subject to our conversation tonight and City Council's conversation tomorrow night. The proposed language would make Design Review Board advisory. The same organization as far as the makeup of members. Additional minor applications would not be presented. That'd be solar panels, walls, fences, and sign modifications. Think of Litchfield Park or ground control becoming Green Olive. That's something that would not go before the advisory board. Input would become recommendations to the zoning administrator. This is similar to how RPG operates. RPG makes recommendations, but they vote. However, they do not have the authority to approve. They make recommendations to council. In this case, DRAB would make recommendations to the zoning administrator. Now, currently, this comprehensive sign program goes to the DRB. we are suggesting that come before you as commission. The comprehensive sign program or plan or package is essentially a rezone. It's essentially a PD overlay. It's changing all of the permittable standards within the code to a list of new. If it's, you get 1 foot of signage per 10 feet of building, they're asking for 2. It's essentially a rezone on signs. So we feel as though that needs to come before commission for consideration. Lovely, if that's okay with Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, sorry, my question is there a way I could see your presentation?
O'Connor, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, my question was just whether or not like there's a way for me to see your presentation as I follow along here.
It is, Commissioner O'Connor, it's an ongoing conversation we've had on over a number of months as far as trying to fix that. So I apologize. The only thing I can provide you is just the camera pointing at chair and vice chair and the TV behind it. Other than that, I'll have the presentation available tomorrow, as including the PowerPoint.
No problem.
Go ahead, Bob.
Additional minor applications, solar panels, no problem. Wall, fence, and sign modifications. Living here, that's a big item. We can't let that fall through the cracks if we want to continue maintaining Litchfield Park, the park. And so the question, again, obviously of the lawyer, of the law, for the law, by the law, and the lawyers. So we've got 2 lawyers, you know, you sit on this board or committee, what are your recommendations to us to how to resolve and keep this? Because both of you live here. Or is that something that you don't think is worth asking questions, putting a brick wall up, or, you know, forcing somebody to make a decision that, you know, is not a one blanket fits all?
Well, I think what they're saying is that the city manager or designee is going to do it. It's just off of our
Well,
plate.
but that's not what the city manager that we've hired was asked to do in the beginning.
Mhm.
That's why we as, you know, homeowners do that. I mean, you know, it's one of these games. And, you know, the older I get, the less I'm tolerant of it, because there's people just, well, get out of our way, we're doing this, this, and this. I mean, I used to live in town in Paradise Valley, and as a matter of fact, I still meet on a regular basis with 7 or 8 of my neighbors. And this kind of stuff, plus they have a person that is running for mayor, and she's a lawyer, and she's several expletives of what she really is, and she's managed to inch her way in and bring 2 people with her so that they're controlling the board now. And I mean, it's sad, first because there's not enough homeowners stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, this is not right, let's stop it. And 2, little things like this coming out of the state, you know, enhances their power. So I think, you know, at least we're finding out about it in a timely manner, or are we late to the plate?
So, Board Member Derry, the ideal time to act was in 2023 when state law became a May condition. Because that was the first step towards this removal, I guess you could say. And even that bill was a compromise over months and amendments over months with the state and as far as our elected officials at that level. That should have been the first indication that something like this may happen. I have a few solutions we'll get to at the end. They're not great solutions, but they are legally valid solutions, I think, from our attorney as far as things we still can do. But I'll talk about those in just a bit.
But can I just ask a very broad question in simple terms? These removal of all of our input and our voting and all of that is due to state changes that happened in 2023?
Sorry, Commissioner Fix, in 2023, the requirement, sorry, the allowance, excuse me, for administrative review and approval went into effect. Cities may authorize administrative staff to do it. In 2025, it's no longer may, it's a shall condition with the updated House bill that was signed into effect in March.
So that wasn't put to a vote at all, that was just signed to change it?
As far as how the state goes,
Yeah.
there's like a committee of the whole, and there's all those sorts of things. It went all back and forth through all the levels of review and approval at the state level, and Governor Hobbs signed it in March, I think
So
March
like-
31st.
May to shall.
That's
as
correct.
she signed it. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
It just seems as though I worry about our zoning administrator taking on, first of all, additional responsibilities as Bob
Right.
was saying. I mean, because he's also taking on a lot more liability too. I mean, and to remove the general public having any input, that's one thing. And then to also not even have input from our board. I don't think that, I think that Litchfield Park's a unique community and that's probably why it's one of, what, 3 or 4 that
Mhm.
do have
Mhm.
a design and review board. And taking that completely away, I think is going to potentially create conflict and problems down the line, as well as potential legal issues generated by citizens who aren't happy with decisions that might be made, and that's concerning to me.
So, yeah, Commissioner Alley, Commissioner Fix, I'll talk about the legalese, to my ability. As far as liabilities, I think is your part of your question. And Commissioner Fix, your question about review and approve. I assume the we was a royal we and not a commission. Okay, we, just to be sure, because this commission still has actions that are state mandated, quite frankly, that need to be taken as far as rezonings, use permits, text amendments like this. I'll come back to I'll have an answer for you in just a little bit here.
Are there any other questions on this slide? Being none, why don't you go ahead and go forward?
Thank you. So, I hearkened to it, but I'll hark to it again. All of these mentions, I can't have anymore. I don't have it. I want them. This is everything we talked about. Santa Barbara Field, look like Litchfield Park. All of that is subjective. And we had a conversation internally as far as it says objective standards, but it doesn't say it can't have objective standards. It doesn't say it can't have subjective standards. That went through legal review. Part of the reason you didn't see this until now from March is our attorney sits on a number of boards, has been working with a number of similar sized jurisdictions to see if there's any way to navigate this better. And we are at the point where we are that we need to continue forward in this manner, but I have more information coming up. We have things like this in our code, do this, not that, desirable, undesirable. I can't. I just, that isn't I don't have the ability anymore. Now, here's what's not changed. Here's the good news. It's very little bit of good news, but it's what affects us the most. Development agreements can still have it. Development agreements can still require DRB and City Council to review and approve design plans. I don't like when the attorney says this, but he says that you can put nearly anything in a development agreement, and if the party agrees to it, the party agrees to it. So that means everything in the hill, everything in the square is still look like Litchfield Park. Santa Barbara Field shall include harmonious. All of that soft language, I would say, can still be subjected to anyone that wants to develop in the square. Now, I wanted to show you more measurable standards. One second. I wanted to show you more measurable standards that were in the code. And I went through the entirety of section 39. There's only one part, one sentence in section 39 that was an objective standard. Accent colors may be used for architectural trim not to exceed 10% of any single wall surface. That is the only thing that is a measurable requirement that the Home Builders Association and others that plead with us saying we can't figure it out. What does it mean look like Litchfield Park? I see farmhouses, I see low slung roofs, I see Spanish influence, I see this. So I don't know how to interpret this. This basically means that every single thing in design review has to be prescribed. I want 4 windows, not 3 windows, not 5 windows. Must have a break in the plane every 50 feet for 4 feet. Can't say shall blend in with the neighborhood anymore. I can't say you should think about desert tones. I actually have to say light reflective values not exceeding 7. I have to say you may use this stone in this color in this way. It has to describe. The League of Cities and Towns put out a sample ordinance that basically was a yes, no, or a points-based system. Did you include 3 colors? Yes. Did you include 2 materials? Yes. And either it's a go or it's a no-go. Again, sorry, the good news, I have 2 in front of me. The good and the bad is the ones that matter the most in the square, we can still get there with what we want. I had 2 questions on this side, if that's.
Go ahead.
Or about.
Who polices this? How far up does it go? All of this, what we've seen so far, who polices this?
As far as if we choose to ignore state law,
Yeah,
I am not an attorney. I am not in a position to ignore state law. So I have to bring this before you and make these adjustments to my code. Otherwise, I am at risk of losing my certification as well. Now, all of this before you, I have 2 big brothers. I have the city manager and the city attorney. And all of this language in this
on
conversation,
top of them.
but there's always a big brother, sure. And again, this isn't my opinion on the matter. This isn't,
No, I understand it's not your opinions, you know. We're tiered. And so,
Mhm.
so, you know, you know, but at some point in time, the reality needs to catch up with what is physically going on and where half this stuff came out of and why it came out of it. You know, I mean, my license is a 5-digit license, so that means, you know, I've been doing this for a long time.
Correct.
And, you know, and it evolves and it comes and goes. And so it's one of those things that, you know, like I say, why did I move here? Because I wanted, you know, like what I grew up with back in Illinois. Small town, local politics, good neighbors, I mean, you know, the whole thing, so.
correct. And we'll go, sure, fix.
I'm going all the way back to the beginning. So one of the very first slides you showed us,
Mhm.
I believe the purpose for some of this, for the changes the state made,
Mhm.
was one of the items where that it was taking too long, too much red tape, da, da, da. So now you're saying, just let me make sure I'm understanding. When somebody comes to you with an application to build something, you can no longer give them examples of what we as a city will permit in our city and the colors and schemes and all of that. So instead, they have to guess, they have to submit their plans, and then you check out boxes, no, no, yes, no, 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 yes. And so does that not extend the process and take much more time?
Commissioner Fix, thank you for the question, because I will state it more clearly. I have to prescribe every minute detail of every aspect of design review, and that will be a future text amendment. Meaning, I can't even give examples. I would basically give them section 39 that says the following. Front door must be the following 3 colors, must include trim, must include window. All of that, every single aspect has to be an objective standard that they follow like a recipe. I can't give examples. I can't say looks like Litchfield Park. It has to be prescribed to them. The timeline is based on going to a DRB and waiting for a hearing. To answer your question, and I still don't have a legal opinion on this matter, if they apply to something and it's a meeting where it's a day that I don't have any meetings, like a Monday or Friday. And if I can go, okay, check, go through section 39, meets, I could approve it that day. However, and again, I don't have this answer yet, so I'm putting it out there. If we are still requiring those to go to the DRAB, and I have to delay that applicant and that review and that approval by 4 weeks, that's something that might open us up to liability. And I don't have that answer yet. I also don't have an answer on should the DRAB give an opinion and they say something as simple as, I don't like the way it looks. Again, I might be open to liability because that is not an objective response. That is a subjective response. So I have to be very careful, again, with my certification and my role to say that even if we do have a DRAB and take opinion on the matter, it'd be very similar to the way this commission sees use permits. I'll use this as a parallel. When we have a use permit that comes before you, there's a list of criteria in the section of use permits in our code. Hours of operation, impact to parking, noise, smells. You as commission look at my presentation, my review of it, and I say, okay, here's how they're meeting. Here are the hours. Here's what's going on. If they are meeting the conditions, your response would need to be similar. We had this just happen with the storage facility across Indian School Road in Avondale. Our residents were upset at the fact that across the street next to the post office, they were putting in this storage facility. How could you? It's terrible. We had, I think, 25 people show up to the Avondale Planning and Zoning Commission. It was appealed to City Council. City Council saw it, said they're meeting the conditions. We shouldn't even be hearing this item. Denied it outright and said, sorry for the 9-month delay. You can continue to operate because you were following all the code standards. So I say all that to tell you that me delaying review and approval by up to 4 weeks, me being advised by a DRAB saying, I don't like the way it looks, is opening us up to liability concerns. It has to be objective and code-based review. I review the code, check. DRAB looks at the code as well, check, and we have harmony in that matter. Questions on that?
Thank you.
Seeing none.
These are the questions that were asked. I have responses, and these are from our city manager and city attorney. I'll read them all for you. If the city is recommending that the DRB have an advisory only role, does this imply, and I'm reading it for O'Connor, I apologize, Commissioner O'Connor, that you can't see. I'll slow down in my reading. If the city is recommending that the DRB have an advisory only role, does this imply that the city intends to remove all subjective standards from the zoning code? Our response, yes. The city will be removing all subjective standards through further code amendments. These code amendments will be discussed by P&Z and our DRB. Subjective standards will still apply in development agreements, such as Litchfield Square, the Agua Fria project, Vistago, the Thomas, etc. Number 2, if the DRB becomes advisory only, will staff be required to formally document and respond to our recommendations. Recommendations will be included in the DRB minutes. Staff decisions on DRB advised matters could certainly be reported back in the staff report. 3, if both objective and subjective standards will persist in the code, I'll stop there. I cannot continue to have subjective language. Questions on these questions and responses? We'll keep going. 4, could eliminating the DRB's public decision-making role reduce community input or protections from neighborhood character? Input would remain, just be a change to DRB recommendation versus a voting action. Neighborhood character would be addressed through code changes being objective versus subjective. 5, I think, or 4.2. Is the city proposing any measures to mitigate erosion of community participation and influence in this way? And response, we do not see this changing, as DRB would still make recommendations. Also, the public could still comment on agenda items or on call of the community. 5, HB 2447 does not mandate public notice for administrative approvals. How will the city ensure transparency, such as posting approvals online, mandating a public register, or allowing written public comments? Response, DRB would continue to discuss similar issues, but would make recommendations versus voting. As in number 4, the public can still comment in meetings in various ways, as today. Staff approvals that receive recommendations through DRB would be listed in staff monthly reports. Staff monthly reports is something that goes to city council that basically goes over everything we've done over the past month. Questions? 6, will there be an appeal process available if residents or DRB members believe there is an approval misapplied to staff? Yes. This appeal process exists in code today, as council can override DRB or the zoning administrator. 7, what safeguards will be in place to ensure consistency and accountability in administrative approvals? Periodic audits reporting back to the council is C number 2. Council gets weekly reports from staff. 2 states as follows: recommendations to be included in DRB minutes, staff decisions on DRB advised matters could certainly be reported in the staff report. 8, has the city reviewed how other charter cities are preparing to implement HB 2447, and could their approaches help inform ours? Yep. However, state, just like chickens, said this is a statewide concern, and it overrode us as a charter city. I'm talking about the backyard chickens, just to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. Everyone gets chickens in their backyard, and hooray.
But there are guidelines that the cities can enforce for the said chickens that I read on, for Goodyear anyway.
Yes.
Okay, and we can do the same.
Commissioner Fix, I had a similar conversation about, it doesn't say subjective is banned, so can't we just do subjective still? I did not find any legal support on that sort of thing. There are ways you can be more restrictive as far as, you can just have hens, not roosters, that sort of thing. Again, this is,
You have to have a structure, and the structure.
That's
needs to be
correct.
right next to your neighbor's.
Right.
Bedroom window, and,
Yes.
it has to be set back, if you will. Okay.
And again, we've been behind the scenes for 6 months trying to crack this code to maintain what we've all anticipated and bought into and enjoy. And we haven't found a kink in the armor, I guess you could say, to do better than having it still applicable to development agreement projects. Heavy subjects, not a lot of great solutions from my end. Again, 6 months of work behind the scenes to try and find what we can to make this better. However, this is just the first step as far as code changes. So we have this as far as essentially language cleanup as far as procedures. We'll have a secondary one that is city code change for subdivision requirements that does not come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, as that is an independent chapter of city code. And then again, I'll see you, besides November, I'll see you again probably at the start of the new year with a comprehensive update to our section 39 design review section. To the point of the response listed earlier, we will work with DRB also in work study session as far as getting in front of them. We have a very unique situation where we are going to affect how DRB operates, because you are the body that looks at text amendments. They are the body that looks at design review. So we feel very fine and okay and legally supported that we can show DRB and have a conversation with DRB about their input on the text amendment that you will be ultimately making a recommendation on to city council.
You ready for questions?
I am,
Anybody want to start? I've got a couple. How did we get from what the law says, you know, must authorize an administrative personnel to review and approve design review plans based on objective standards, to just changing design review from what it is now to strictly advisory? How do we get to that point?
Chair, the first blush was that DRB is essentially illegal, that we couldn't have a DRB. The idea of us having something that was in direct conflict of state law, administratively
Maybe
reviewed.
that's our problem. Why is DRB in conflict with the law? Because all they do is subjective?
It's because they are subjective, because they are not administrative staff. I am essentially taking it to an appointed board that is a step beyond what the law permits.
So under the suggested reworking, you're still gonna have design review and you're still gonna take it to them. But their decision is not final. The zoning administrators is.
The zoning administrator's decision is final on these types of applications. I, as your planning director, as your AICP planner, am still very nervous about the idea that we would still delay review and approval by waiting up to 4 weeks to go to DRAB.
Right.
I'm still nervous on the idea that any feedback that is subjective, I would essentially have to strike from the record and could not act upon, because that is in conflict again with state law.
I understand that nervousness, but is that not what I guess, is that not what we're trying to do here, is create an advisory board that's going to do those things?
To be very frank with you, I have the cover of not being the zoning administrator. So at the end of the day, my zoning administrator and my city attorney cover these actions.
Okay. To the charter city part of it, I understand that you're saying the state has decided that our charter city doesn't apply. We can't, this isn't an issue of local governance.
Mhm.
They're always gonna say that.
Mhm.
So has anybody looked into that further, and is this a hill we're worth that we wanna die on?
Sure. So Chair, the questions received 2 weeks ago were sent to our attorney, Joe Esses.
Yeah.
Joe Esses opined on the matter for about 2 weeks. And again, as of 22 minutes before this meeting started, provided the following response. We can certainly respond and press back to look further into the charter city discussion.
I am guessing that that decision is probably above this commission as to whether they wanna go to battle over this item, the state, and start basically a lawsuit. So I guess we could leave that up to the council to figure out whether they want to do there.
Okay.
My understanding that we can't amend the charter.
I don't think we would need an amendment. I think my opinion is just we're sitting where we need to be. It's just whether you want to go to war over it or not. Can't you kind of move a lot of the subjectivity? I think what you're saying is you get a lot of subjectivity out of the code by just putting a ton of objectivity into it. And as long as those objective standards aren't, it'll be a ton of work. You have to nail it. But is that the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's comprehensive may not be a nuclear explosion of current code language and a complete rewrite, using the league as a resource, certainly, because they've started to do this. But as far as the Litchfield Park look and feel, I would need to get into the nitty gritty as far as if your existing home is Spanish elevation that includes, you know, stucco finish and S-tile roof, any addition must be, I can't even say harmonious. I'd have to say must also be stucco with S-tile roof. It'd have to be, every little detail has to be described and codified.
Is there, a lot of this is, so this is my last question. It's tied to design review board, right? Read some other articles from other law firms that are looking at this and wondering how much can be moved to planning and zoning. And if there's anything that can help skirt that requirement. I guess that's not really a question. A thought to think about, just throwing it out there. Does anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead, Bob.
My summer home's in Wisconsin. I go to the village board meetings and see they still have a design review. Obviously, we're talking now state by state. And they are fairly political up there in Wisconsin. But when it comes to homes, and especially around Lake Geneva and you know, we're talking high-end properties and big time. So people are very, very protective of what they have and what's built. And I mean, the one home that the newest one on the lake, 35 million for a little shack. So, you know, again, what we're trying to protect here is the same idea because we are very unique. And for the state to step in and say, well, you can't do it that way. You do it our way or you the highway. So the other choice may be we dissolve the planning and zoning and design review board and make it strictly a citizen operation. And we, the citizens, control it outside of the government.
Even then, though, you have to be objective and not subjective.
Commissioner,
Personnel.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
I don't have an opinion on Commissioner, Member Derry's take back with people situation.
Okay. Anybody else with questions? Question, quick comments.
Is it possible at all to make design review board like a subset, planning and zoning? And also, I know the time element has come up, you know, been mentioned a few times. Is it possible? I know that you said that the city council, they get reports weekly. Could our design review board get, you know, any kind of applications or, you know, things that were coming down the line sent to them via email or encrypted somehow whenever they came in and they could process them and then have like 2 weeks time to do that? Because I mean, the way that it's set up, I mean, city council has 30 days between meetings anyway.
Yes.
And I would think that they could possibly review it on their own and then even communicate to some degree themselves. I don't know about open meeting laws with regard to that, but I mean, I would think that there would be some way to adjust to that. And also, you know, Michael was saying, I mean, it seems as though we could definitely put objective language in there versus everything being as subjective as it is to resolve some of those issues anyway. I mean, a lot of this, it seems as though it's designed for communities that have like very similar homes. And they don't have custom homes and they don't have, you know, projects that are, I mean, we're not a huge city, so we don't have, you know, huge industrial, you know, things that are going up every day. And so it just seems as though a lot of this just would apply to a city that is not like a city.
Right. Yeah, Commissioner Alvey, there wasn't a minimum size. There's a few laws lately that have been for cities above 75,000, for cities above 250,000. This was not one that we had the opportunity in that regard. The deputizing DRB to receive applications as they come in. I'll have to talk to our city attorney to see if that's an option to make them almost a a per diem or ad hoc sort of situation as they see them as they come in. Regarding your question on open meeting law, they cannot discuss with one another because even, it's not just four or more, it's a situation of, in serial, essentially, if one talks to the next, talks to the next, talks to the next, that would be an open meeting law violation as well. So, the subset of planning and zoning commission would be a unique situation. I can look into it as far as how that would function. The other thing I did not mention is if you're in an HOA, you still have HOA rules. That didn't change. This did not override or exempt HOA. So the Village, the Greens, Renaissance, Cache, Laguna Royale, Villa Hermosa, Peninsula, Sunset Terrace. I think I got them all.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. Would all still be subjected. La Casa Linda doesn't have an active HOA anymore. So I don't know if you've been south of City Hall, but there's some unique changes in there because they do not have an association anymore that is maintaining that. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Is the silver lining here that we really don't have that much land to develop in Litchfield regardless?
The commissioner fixed this, yes. And the other silver lining is that the DA still overrules things in the square. Could you imagine if the square could just look however the square wanted? The only place left to put houses is on Sun Health as part of their campus. I can assure you that when that comes forward, they will have a development agreement. And that development agreement will ensure that DRB and City Council see any sort of design plans because those will be the only houses left. I would tell you that also, even in DRB meetings within the Tierra Verde Village, the original vision, there are some that feel very strongly about the original character. We have a lot of new farmhouse looking things also. And even that is something I'll have to make objective as far as do we continue to allow modernization or does it have to stay classic? I can't have one or the other. I can't have option one, option two, option three. I have to have exact prescription of how that's all going to play out.
Any other questions? Questions? No? Okay, we're gonna move on. Item 4, which is executive session. I don't have an executive session. On item 5, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Adjourned.
I will see you all in 3 weeks, November 4th.